That's Just TMI with your hosts, Dee Dee and Sir Dre.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Dee Dee from That's Just TMI. I'm here with Sir Dre and we've got a special guest. Before we get into this video, just a reminder, this is Millennial March Madness. That's right, Millennial March Madness, a time where we're going to focus on millennials and all the things that they've achieved within their career, within their life. Okay? So, like, share, comment, and subscribe. But before I actually tell you who the guest is, I'm going to give you a little bit of history, tell you some things that she's accomplished, and maybe some of you will be able to pinpoint who she is. Let's see if you know. So, not going to say the name, but this particular person is 28. They are Jamaican, Sir Dre. Brap, brap. That's right. We're all Jamaican on the screen, actually. That's amazing. She studied at Northern Caribbean University and began her professional career working in the retail and automotive industries before realizing she had a passion for entrepreneurship. In 2018, she launched a delivery service with Amazon, which I want to get into because how do you even do that? And she's operating with more than 1,300 DSPs throughout the States, the United States, Canada, UK, Spain, Germany, and nearly 85,000 jobs have been created from this. This is phenomenal. Wow. You know what? I don't even want to talk anymore. I want her to tell us herself. This is Corey Gordon.
Hey.
Corey Gordon, welcome. Thank you
in the building.
Much.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Wow. You have accomplished so much. This is amazing.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here with you guys to talk about what I've done and the Amazon Delivery Service Partner Program. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks, man, this is incredible. I just can't wait to get into this conversation.
You know what?
I just want to say that.
Since you're so excited, get us started.
No. Look, ladies always go first. See, I'm trying a different thing for this whole month of millennials. So I'll let you go first.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then I'll just come crashing in like a wrecking ball.
Wow.
Right. So, Corey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I'm a native of Jamaica. I represent my island everywhere I go. That's an important part of who I am. I was raised by a loving mom and dad, and my grandparents who are still alive today. I grew up in Bobwak, St. Catherine in Jamaica and did all of my schooling back home. When I say that, people are surprised. Like, yes, I did all of my schooling in Jamaica, which I'm so grateful for because that education system is just stellar and it's above anything that I've witnessed. So I'm very grateful that that was my experience. But overall, I'm just extremely industrious. I'm high energy. I've got these really elaborate goals for my life that I'm committed to, and I have no doubts about my ability to be successful.
That's amazing.
So can I just ask the obvious, okay?
Here we
go.
This is a first right here. Please explain to us the designer of this dress, okay? I know everybody's...
Oh, wow.
No, tell us about the dress. We want to know about the dress. Did you make it yourself? I mean, you're an entrepreneur, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Right?
Like you didn't make it yourself. So can we start there?
Absolutely. Thank you for noticing. So it's actually a beautiful top from Zara.
Okay.
I got it, I think, last year in their fall collection. It's like this mint green that I absolutely love. It's a V-neck. It's a little crop. It's beautiful, I think. Thank you.
It is amazing.
No, I did not make it. I am not good with my hands at all. No.
So one of the things that we want to know then is this idea of being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, it's not for everyone, and it's not for the faint of heart. Maybe you can just like take us down a slow walk, how you like go from being educated in the land of wood and water, and now moving into this world that's like, wow. So can you just tell us about that?
Okay, sure thing. So I studied accounting in college, so business administration was my major. And my parents are entrepreneurs. I've only seen them in that space in my youth and growing up with them. So my dad has a math institute that he's the owner of and instructor at for over 25 years. My mom has launched and grown a number of enterprises as well in a number of industries. So I've always seen this amazing work ethic and ability for them to start and finish something and be successful at it.
Mhm.
So entrepreneurship has never felt unfamiliar to me. It was not distant. It was a part of my culture and my upbringing, and I longed for that. But I didn't know where to start, and I had no idea about the industry I wanted to be a part of. But I was open to going down any path I was guided to explore. So when I moved to the States, I lived in North Carolina in Charlotte with my mom and my maternal grandparents for a few years, and I was looking for work in accounting, which was my field, but I didn't enjoy it. And I'm so happy that I did not pursue that. So eventually someone suggested that I apply for Nordstrom because they promote from within, and it would be a good fast track for me to eventually get into management. And I did not know anything about retail sales, did not know about designer at the time. I was still appalled that people would spend $200 on denim, and sometimes I still am, but I got into that space. I collaborated with a number of sales associates who had been doing it for years. I taught myself the skills that I needed to be successful as a salesperson, did that for 6 months, and then they promoted me to assistant management for the trend department at the time. Mm-hmm. So with my career at Nordstrom, I started out as in sales associate, and then I became a manager, and I've done really all the departments that you can think of. So shoes, women's, accessories, men's, jewelry, handbags. I've done it all, and I actually moved a couple of times with them. So my last role with Nordstrom took me to King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, where I was introduced to Tesla. Now, for me at the time, I did not know anything about electric vehicles. You know, I'm from Jamaica. All we know is gas-powered vehicles. Yep. And so this was new, but it was exciting. I took a test drive in the vehicle. It was the Model S at the time, and I absolutely loved it. I couldn't imagine ever driving a gas car again. And then eventually just birthed this desire in me to connect with the company because of how mission-driven they were. Mm-hmm. So got found by a recruiter who brought me on board to interview for a management position in Pennsylvania. I was hired, and almost immediately they asked me to relocate to New Jersey. So wow. I did that. Yes. Wow. So I relocated to New Jersey with Tesla with the intention of being in sales management, and then did a month there. They brought me to New York. So just very quickly, I'm like moving around with this company that I just found out about. Mm-hmm. Moved to New York, and I was in Long Island for a period, then Bronx, and then Brooklyn, and then Mount Kisco, Westchester. Transitioned from sales management to operations management. And my last role with Tesla, I was responsible for the delivery of all of the vehicles in the tri-state area. And at the time, at the time, the Model 3 was the new vehicle that was coming on market. So this was a new vehicle for us to learn about. And so I was responsible for the teams that were going to handle vehicle registration, licensing, insurance, financing, leasing, and cash purchases. So I did that for a little bit as well. And then I transitioned to another auto tech company that was a startup. They were looking for someone to help launch their operations department, and a friend of mine had started working with them and wanted me to come on board. So I transitioned into that before I launched my now company, Core to You. Oh no,
that's good.
Thank you.
You know what? This is one of those times, honestly, Dee Dee, where I wish I had some tea. Like maybe because she's Jamaican, Pharisee tea. Like I wish I had some. No, that's incredible. Like, okay, did we say how old she is? Did we tell?
I think I mentioned it. Yeah, 28.
I mean, come on now. Like those kinds of stories are for like people my age and
Yes.
older. I won't say how old I am in this episode. We'll wait until we get to the
If you watch episode 1,
geriatrics.
he tells us his age anyways. So just
Yeah,
give credit to that.
whatever. But I mean, like you've done so much in such like a short period of time to the point where you're like, oh, well, yeah, I did this and that and that and that, and I'm still 28. That's phenomenal. Anyways, I just want to clap my hands early in this interview because that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're not afraid. You're not afraid because here's the thing. At 28, people are like, maybe I might get an apartment down the street from my parents. Or, I'm just going to maybe go and do a master's degree or something, then I'll be back home. But you're like moving through America like America is Clarendon. Like, it's a completely different country. So, all right, I have another question. Because here's the thing. Yeah, go ahead, Dee Dee.
No, you ask your question first, and then I'll ask after.
So, because Jamaica is not the United States, it's a completely different... Was that your question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, fine. So it's a completely different country. So the culture is different. Like, how do you navigate? And big up Jamaica. My parents are Jamaican, right? So I love Jamaica. But the reality is, Jamaica is a different pace, a different culture, different rules, spoken and unspoken and otherwise. How do you navigate all of this at such a young age? Like, you have to, and I can tell your parents are extremely intelligent, so we want to big them up too, right? Because you didn't just become this. This is good stock, right? But how do you get into this country and then now you're like navigating all of these different rules and thriving?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, if my dad heard what you just said, he would agree a little bit with it, but his perspective on who we become as people is that individuals make choices. So if I ever say to him, I'm so grateful for everything that you've done for me, and a major part of who I am is because of your rearing of me, he'll be like, no, you made choices to be who you are. So, and I've always thought that and appreciated his perspective on that. But I think there are a lot of things that have contributed to how I've approached the American work culture and environment here. And the first thing is just my personal commitment to excellence. Like, there is nothing that I'm going to get involved in that I am not already thinking that I have mastered. And so, and whether that means there are failures along the way, right? I'm not exempt from that. And I've had my experience with that, but my ultimate goal is to master the task at hand and to be excellent no matter what. So coming into an environment where things are a lot more fast-paced than I'm used to in Jamaica, and there are these unwritten rules, and people might look at you a little different because of how you appear. I was never concerned with that. For me, the end goal was I need to be successful because there is no other option. And so I'm going to assimilate myself into a culture that is going to teach me how to be a better person and ignore the other things that are, demeaning or just not helpful. So I've always had that approach of my ultimate goal trumps whatever else is happening around me.
Dre, I can only imagine how code switching impacted her life so much, especially in her professional life.
Right,
going through the different states as well and climbing the corporate ladder. How, maybe when she's talking to her friends or family back home, there goes the accent. But then in that professional space, maybe that's why sometimes people are often like, you actually did your full schooling in the Caribbean because we can't hear it, not fully understand code switching. And that's what we do within our community.
Yeah.
We do, but you know what? I've had so many experiences where there are Jamaicans and Caribbeans on the teams that I've been a part of. And then there's just this natural rapport because we're from the same place. So there is a code switching that happens for sure. And when I was in the South, I think it happens a lot more than now when I'm in the Northeast, where things are a lot more diverse and people look like me and they sound like me.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, because here's the question that everybody wants to know. And I'm Canadian, right? So my parents are Jamaican, but I'm Canadian. And one of the things that I know for certain is that throughout the years growing up, there was this kind of, you have to put your best twang forward. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And unfortunately, I think that has come at a cost, because I mean, it's a dialect. It's no different than broken French, broken whatever, Spanish, you name it. Like, there's all different dialects within different people groups.
Mhm.
And I wonder, because you've been able to experience as much success as you have in a very short period of time, in terms of code switching, like this right here, this is the Tesla you right now so far, but I'm certain that there's some patois somewhere in you. What does that look like in terms of how do you do this thing? Like, is there the pressure? Is there pressure for you to be this way? Or is the Jamaica you also permitted into the room? We'd love to hear
That,
that as well.
yeah, that's a great question. So I don't separate the two. I feel that my Jamaican side, but when I think about that question, it kind of sounds to me like if I'm speaking properly and I'm presenting myself in this way, that I'm not Jamaican, right? And that to me is not true. I've been in student government like really all my life. When I was in college, I've been in debates. Debating was a part of my life. Whenever I wanted extra money from my dad, I had to do presentations for him to like plead my case about why I wanted to buy these very expensive shoes and how I'm going to use my money and why I needed it from him versus like saving for myself. So I was always used to doing presentations and speaking, you know, like the standard English when I was with my dad and when I was in school, because that's just how he wanted me to present myself to the world when it's time for that. So like in a professional setting. So I think like the way I'm presenting now has just been years of this formation. It's not necessarily a result of me living in this part of the country, right? So I feel that my Jamaican side is always present, but it's not effective for me to be speaking patois in a conference room because my points will not be made. You will not understand me. And then what's the point of me being there? Right. So I think it's just a matter of relevance at that time.
And context.
Yep. I agree with that 100% because, you know, I came up here when I was 12. So sometimes I don't even really like to claim Dre as Jamaican because he wasn't born here. But I have a friend who came to Canada as well when he was 13. So he came here and he still speaks the patois. He has an accounting degree, but sometimes wonder why he can't get a job within that field. And oftentimes, I mean, when we came off the plane, my family, my mom looked at us and said, "We're gonna twang." They said that. They said you're going to talk properly. And it's not that we spoke badly before, but just ensure that our points, like you mentioned, can truly get across to people so that when you're in the rooms and in the spaces, it's not a matter of people looking down on you or just not understanding the words that are coming out of your mouth because you're speaking a dialect that, you know, may only be heard when they're on vacation and maybe something that they think is funny, or it's like, oh, you know, when you hear it in TV or in movies, and everyone, once they go to the Caribbean, they come back and what do they say? Yeah, man. Or that, or wagwan, you know? So what you're saying is actually so true and so profound. And I actually liked how your father did those things with you, the debates. And I've always said Jamaican parents do some things because my summers were spent very clever. My summers were spent writing papers and all that stuff. So when I went to university, I didn't have trouble finding how to do an autobibliography and all that stuff because I had to do it in my summers. So it was a lot easier to do that in my educational life or in my upbringing or further on in life.
Absolutely.
My next question is, so you told us that your parents are entrepreneurs. Like this is actually so good. And you've told us how you've kind of got to where you are, but why did you choose this entrepreneur path? Like why this delivery service?
So my second to last role at Tesla was very demanding. I was working 80 plus hours and I love the company and the mission. It still is one of my very favorite companies. It's a wonderful place to work. But I just needed something that was more fulfilling and that felt like I was building my own. And I always wanted to kind of, invest in my community a little bit by being able to provide employment for people. So that's why I gravitated toward entrepreneurship. But what led me to the delivery service partner program was simply a Google advertisement that I saw that was advertising the Amazon delivery service partner program. I was on it one day and I just happened to see it, read the details, and they were looking for people who had previous management experience. So this comfortability with training, coaching, recruiting people and investing in them. Financial literacy and responsibility was important to them as well. Prior logistics experience was not a requirement, but I had that. So it just felt like the culmination of all of my skills and all of my years of experience could be identified in this one opportunity. And so I applied, and it's highly competitive. So I was like, I'm still working at my other company at the same time. So I'm like, if I get in, I get in, and then I'll go through the process of setting up a company. But I wasn't necessarily expecting that I was going to get into the program because of how competitive it was. And I live in New York, which is heavily dense, and there's lots of competition. So I was like, okay, we'll see. I think I got an email like within 2 weeks of my application, did the virtual interview, and then a couple of weeks later, I was in Manhattan interviewing with 3 different managers for Amazon just to, I guess, convince them that I was worthy of being in the program. And then after that, it was a matter of selecting my preference in terms of locations. I remember I selected Brooklyn because I live in Brooklyn. But there wasn't a facility at the time, and there was high demand in Staten Island. So they asked me to launch in Staten Island, and went through the process of registering this company, figuring out a name, and everything else just kind of came to be.
Wow.
I know, it's so amazing.
This is like unbelievable. Like
I know.
Can I just say this? And I can't believe you're 28. Like this is a conversation for an older person that's had more life experience. And I'm not saying that 28-year-olds don't have experience or they're not mature, but it's been a long time since I've met a 28 anything, male or female, that has this kind of story. So here's part of what I'm picking up on though. You're not afraid. Like, so where do you get that kind of tenacity? That kind of resilience? Like, I don't think that every single door opened for you, right? I would imagine that there are some doors that closed, but where do you get this kind of, I'm going to do it? I may be a young Black woman from North Carolina by way of Jamaica, but you can't tell me nothing. So where does that come from?
Definitely not my dad. And he will not be offended that I'm saying that because he knows.
I can't wait for him to see what he actually says.
No, I sent him these interviews that I do, and he's like, great job. I expected. Okay, next thing. He's so like casual about the whole thing. I am so sorry. Can I get that?
No, it's okay. It might be outside.
I'm so amazed. This is
this is like, look, Deandra, this interview, even though we're now talking to her picture, this is going to be like a first. I actually think that you should just leave it right there. But the reality is, like, how do you actually, from North Carolina to New Jersey. Sorry, we're talking about you. Okay?
Yeah, bold.
Just go back to you or whatever you were doing. You can do that again. So go ahead. We're still waiting for the answer from you. Like, where do you get this kind of... Yeah, go ahead.
So definitely my mom, like she has had a number of business ideas and enterprises that she has launched that have failed. And my mom's in her 40s and she's been independent since she was 18. So she's had a lot of ideas and opportunities to launch something, and she never backs down. But believe me, she's had, I think, more failures than successes, but she gets back up every time. And she's always been transparent with me about her experience. So I didn't expect that life would be smooth sailing and that any enterprise that I would start with would be immediately successful, because she was always so open about her experience. But she's got a fighting spirit. She's the most positive person that I know. And it doesn't matter what failure she's encountered. Like she's still looking for something new to start and launch and grow. And now later on in life, like she is having a lot more success than failure, but starting out, it was not like that. So I'm grateful to her for how open she's been with me about her experience, so I could have the right perspective going into business. But the other part of that is my own experience too. Like I think I've got just this internal motivation to just keep going and trying things no matter what. I fear nothing. I'm extremely daring, even in like my personal life. I will do anything. I'm that friend who's like, let's go bungee jumping today. It's 5 p.m.
I did that last couple years ago.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not doing it.
No. Once you get to a certain age, you don't bungee or jungie, whatever.
No, but I'm extremely daring. I fear nothing. And I want to live a life that is enriching and fulfilling. So I want to try all the new things.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So are there any obstacles? I know we kind of mentioned that, you're daring. Are there any obstacles you can share with us that you encountered and maybe how you got over that hurdle? Yes. So, and this is still something that I'm struggling with today because my business is ever changing. But when I first decided to launch and really dive into this package delivery space, it was new to me. I mean, my experience is in customer service management and more recently auto technology. So the specifics of like employee management and fleet management were never something that I was aware of. So it was important that I understood employment law and tax law. And those were things that I didn't have to think about as a manager in a company that someone else owned. Mm-hmm. There was a legal department for that. There's a tax department for that. But this is now my company where I'm responsible for its legality and the employees that I manage and the suppliers that I have. And so I needed to be educated on everything that was written in law about this business. And that's always changed. That changes, right? So, and even when you add on the complication of COVID and managing people who might test positive for that, how do you reconcile that? What are the laws about paying them versus not paying them? Like, those are things that I'm still struggling with, but I needed to teach myself a lot of that before I officially launched. And so I read a lot of articles. I was connecting with people who are in operations and logistics, other owners from other states who I met through training. And I was really diving deep in that information so I could teach myself, because it would not be acceptable for me to excuse any mistake on my part and blame it on ignorance. So I needed to teach myself.
I love it. You know what? That last part there, and look, this has to be one of my favorite interviews of all time.
Oh,
no, it really is. It's one of them. I can't say it is the one because then I'll get in trouble, but this is one of my favorite, because here's the thing. Your generation, I find, so I'm older than you guys are, so I'm going to say this knowing that I might get pushback, but your generation doesn't take accountability well. I find that there's a measure of entitlement, right? So because I went to school or I'm polite or whatever, basically I should have access to this. But what I'm hearing you say as an entrepreneur and one who's responsible for people, their lives, their families, right? That's all part of what it looks like. You're saying, no, I am responsibility. I am responsible, rather. I take full accountability for what does or does not happen. Can you just say a little bit more? Because right now, I think millennials need to hear someone, like if I say it, it sounds parental. But if you say it, like you are in that kind of age group. So maybe you can just help us to understand how important has accountability been to this journey of creating this thing that's not even finished growing. Help us to understand that.
Yeah. So, I mean, entrepreneurship was my choice. It's a responsibility that I gave myself, and I decided that I was going to hire people and bring them into my process. So I'm responsible to them to present a company that is compliant. I'm responsible to them to be a leader who is aware of everything that's happening that will affect their jobs and then subsequently their personal lives. So I cannot make excuses for what I don't know. I have to expose myself to information, absorb that knowledge, and apply it to my business. So everyone involved is doing the right things at all times, and there's not going to be a lawsuit that they're going to be dragged into.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not my parents' responsibility to make sure that I know everything I need to know for my company. It's not Amazon's responsibility. It's mine. And so I take that responsibility so seriously. I have to teach myself. You connect yourself with people who know more than you. There is so much information that is accessible to us that wasn't accessible to, let's say, your generation.
And negligence isn't a defense. Negligence can't be a defense. You can't say, well, I didn't know, or I didn't do the research, because like you're saying, it's your responsibility.
Yes. And at the end of the day, whatever happens, if there's an accident in my van, if there's an employee who is hurt while they're delivering, and these things happen, it's Corey that's going to be liable. So I need to equip myself with the laws and the knowledge to protect my company, my people, and myself.
Yeah.
You have another question, Deandra?
No, but I see your mind running. So I thought you were going to say something.
Like, I've got this weird brain, so that once it starts going, I can't get it to stop. So let me push my next question in, because Dee Dee said it's fine. So here's the next question that you just said, though. Collaboration.
Yes.
We hear a little bit about that, the power of crossing the room and working, intersectionality, all of those things. Please, again, millennials need to understand this. Like, it's not about your girls and your boys and your brethren from when you guys were kids. It's about connecting with people who are moving in the same direction, even if it's not the same business. So maybe you can help us to understand that. What does that look like for you?
Well, I learned that later on in my career. I'd say I've really leaned into collaboration in the last 4 years of my professional career. Beginning stages, I wanted to be independent. Like, it was impressive to me that I could be self-reliant and I could trust my instincts and my own personal goals and resources to accomplish a task. Like, I did not want to tap into your knowledge, even though it could be beneficial to me. It felt good knowing that I could do all things by myself, but that leads to many things. Like, that's how you make mistakes. That's how you get burnout. That's how you lose your motivation. It's how you form distrust and mistrust with the people that are in your circle. That leads to a lot of really bad things. So, and I've experienced those things. So I've shifted, and that really started at Nordstrom because I was fresh out of college. You studied management, organizational techniques in college, and they really drill into you that you should focus on results. There isn't this emphasis on building relationships and showing empathy and compassion. And so those weren't things that I was practicing in my first few managerial roles. I was just focused on the process and the end results, and you're a means to an end, to be honest. But I saw how detrimental that was to forming personal and professional relationships and really growing as an individual. So I transitioned after having a conversation with an employee of mine who was very honest. She was like, you are not great with people skills. You really need to, and where are these soft skills? Like, we need to start to see them come to light. Like, that's basically what she was saying. So I transitioned to be a leader who's more compassionate, who wasn't afraid to lean into her feelings, who cared about the individual. And I could see the difference there. So for me, I'm really, now in my career, stressing the importance of collaborating with people. So when I transitioned to Tesla, I didn't know anything about the auto industry, about EV, really not much about operations. So I needed to rely on other people who were more experienced in this field. And that's how I started to gain confidence that, okay, I am learning a little bit more day by day. It feels more natural. I don't feel, there's not this imposter syndrome anymore that I'm feeling I don't deserve to be here. But that came from me trusting the resources that were present in other people. And when I moved on to like Carmatic, and even now with my partnership with Amazon, I'm gaining so much insight and knowledge just from the people who are in my circle. Like, I surround myself with people who are smarter than me. And my last manager, he was really good about including me in spaces and conversations where I should not be present, just based on my title. So
Ignore
I'm going
me.
to respond to you. I'm not even going to let Dre respond because he can't. No.
Pretend like my
Let her
camera's off.
finish. Just let her finish.
I'm not saying another word. I just
Okay.
so good. Please continue, Corey. I'm
Okay.
begging you. Duh. Oh, this is so
Oh my
good.
goodness. So his name is Jason Barry, and he was the chief operational manager at the last company, Carmatic, that I worked for, and I was the logistics director. So they would have a lot of conversations about the technology that we use and how to improve our partnerships with our dealers and brokers. And he would include me in these meetings where there would be other CEOs present, and I'm like, why am I here? But I didn't recognize that he was introducing me to a world that would become my home. You know, he was showing me how to do really good negotiations, how to ask deep questions, how to think critically, all terms that you hear people throw around that you need to have. But now I was getting this firsthand experience with people who were successful. So I'm so still grateful for that opportunity, but he really taught me the value of collaboration. And he did that by involving me in these spaces where I wouldn't be in otherwise.
Yeah. You know, so as I said, I was going to respond to this because Dre, I feel like if you respond to it, people are just going to be like, you would say that. But what I'm going to say is everything you just said was so phenomenal. But the point that I'm going to take home with me, I'm already home. But the point that resonates with me is just the mere fact that it's so important to have older people in your life. And I know that's what he wanted to say.
But you don't know what I wanted to say.
It's part
That's
of what
I would have said, though. That's what I would have said.
Exactly. And that's part of, I appreciate having older people around because, you know, they have more life experiences. They can teach you so much more, tell you the mistakes that they've made, and so that you don't have to make them along the way. But as Dre mentioned, as millennials, sometimes we don't want to involve other people. And like you said, Corey, sometimes we want to feel independent and like big boss and, oh, wow, I can do it, or I did it on my own. But you're bringing the point home that it's so important to surround yourself with people who may be above you, smarter than you, more educated, further along in the business or the career path that you want to go into, so you can learn from them. Be a sponge. That's where you soak up all the information, not necessarily around people who you now have to pull up. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be around those people at all, because we still need some of those people in our lives. But along the career path, and when you're being as focused as you are to be where you are at 28 and where a lot of these millennials want to be, you have to surround yourself with the right people.
Absolutely. Now, and just to, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. You go
right ahead. We want to hear from you.
I was only going to say, you don't have to accept or execute all of the feedback and advice that you get. And I think that's where a lot of the apprehension comes from with our generation. We feel that getting advice is also a directive to do this exact thing. And sometimes it's not. So you are the master of your life. You've got to be discerning and figure out what advice you receive is applicable to you and your life, and obviously execute those things. And then the things that don't feel relevant or personal to you, you can file that away.
Yeah.
Oh my guys, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I did not expect this.
No, that's okay. Look, this interview,
you're over there losing your mind.
You know what? Look, do you see my hair is going from gray to silver? Okay. This is a platinum conversation.
Not gray to
I
silver.
can't believe 28. She can't be 28. I feel like she might, I don't know, maybe it's like some rundown or some provision that she might have been eating off to the side. Like, look, she's so mature in how she processes things. Yeah. I would love to see what she's doing by the time she gets to her 40s.
I know, right?
The first 40 years of your life is different, right? There's a lot of learning, and it doesn't mean that you don't learn after 40. But once you get to like 40, you're beginning to apply so many different principles and nuance. Look, when you get there, God's willing, please come and tell me if I was right or wrong. But something about 40. I hope you're not listening to us talking about you in the
I
background.
sure was.
Probably not. I would have not been so nice to you. So here's the thing. You need to, I think you said his name is Jason. Jason brought you into the room. You need to buy that guy a Tesla. And let me tell you why. Because here, well, there's two questions. I'll come to the second one after, if that's okay, Dee Dee. But here's the reality. It takes a certain measure of humility to bring somebody into the room that A, might embarrass you, right? Because he may not know what your response will be with all of these people sitting in the room. But B, you may surpass him, because the reality is that when you sit in a room with individuals that know things that you don't, your brain is wired in such a way that you don't see the knots. You see more of the possibilities because you have less disappointments as a result of that. So you actually have the capacity to like shoot faster and further because you don't have any inhibitions. Now, because you said inhibitions, I should say this, maybe you do or you don't know this. Not inhibitions, you said discernment.
Yes.
So I am a pastor, right? So when I hear you saying discernment, I don't know if you want to share here, how has God helped you in your journey? Because discernment's not just a regular word. That sounds like you're a Sabbath church or a Sunday church, but that's somebody's church, right? So when we think about discernment, that means that there's a God that's also leading and directing and shaping and forming and moving ahead. I don't know if you want to say a little bit about that for us, please.
I would love to. Yes. So I grew up in the church. I'm Seventh-day Adventist by nurturing. So my grandparents, we
are all Seventh-day Adventists on this screen.
Oh, wow.
He's the pastor.
I don't get along with Adventist people. That's why I didn't say, well, whatever. I'm sure you're still a nice person anyways.
I think so. So my grandma specifically, she's Adventist. My parents are not. They're not in the church, and that's completely fine. But again, it's just a testament to the freedom that I had growing up. I could do whatever I wanted. So I chose to go to church with my grandma and was very involved in church all my life. Sign language, singing, drama, leading. And the Children's Day, you're going to do the little sermon. I've done all of that in church. And then I went to Northern Caribbean University, which is an Adventist college back home. But God has always been important to me, and he's manifested his existence in many ways. And similar to many other people, I've had my doubts and moments of questioning about your importance, your relevance, your place, and where you are, God specifically. But it always comes back to this unseen hand that is leading and creating paths for me, and like reopening doors that you thought were closed and showing you new opportunities that you could have never dreamed on your own. And that's how I feel about my life. It feels, everything that has happened feels so serendipitous, because this was not the path I would have imagined for myself. I didn't study any of this in college. It was not my intention to move to the Northeast, and didn't know anything about Tesla, didn't know anything about auto tech. And so it feels like there's always been this person kind of curating moments for me, and I just needed to walk into those moments. So God is important to me.
That's amazing. You know what I just got from that? This is taking me back to the beginning of our conversation where Corey said she was fearless, because I know that God works like that in all of our lives, but some of us are just so scared. But you just took it with stride. You walked through. Are you over there crying?
Man, these are tears of. Let me just tell you. Look, tears of excellence, right? So this is a Black woman doing her thing. No, and let me just say this. I am for people. I am a pastor, so I am for people. But I am a Black man. And when I look at you through the screen, we are up there in the hue, right? So when we walk into rooms, at times it's a hindrance because we don't look like what Hollywood is putting as leading singers and voice. And God bless them, right? I'm not hating on the shade thing, but when I hear you talking like this, this is for that little black girl, that little black boy who thinks that because of their hair, their complexion, the size of their lips, all of the things that we have been told would kind of put us in the second tier. You are proof, like living proof. Like that's why I always say that history is more than historical.
Yes. Is it true that you're also the youngest Amazon delivery service personnel?
Yes.
I'm out of here. I'm done. I can't take anymore. When you get to this age and your heart starts fluttering at a certain rate, you just have to like log out. So
just let me know if I need to call 911. Okay. Just
oh my goodness.
Youngest. And from Yard also let the church. Oh, this is incredible.
I did not know that until like 3 weeks ago.
Oh man,
you are making history. That is amazing. Or as one of our co-hosts, Tiffany, she likes to say, "herstory."
That's
her story, just like that. And it's so amazing because your story is not complete. And Dre was saying, we want to see you, later on in life to see what else you can accomplish and what else you will achieve, because that fearless mentality coupled with everything that your parents reared you with, allowing you to make those choices on your own, all of that have complemented who you are right now on the screen, which is somebody that I look up to, because I'm like, wow, maybe I should not have been so scared, or and it's motivational. I feel motivated. I feel inspired right now. Like I'm like,
if I leave ministry, it's going to be your fault, Corey. So
don't leave ministry.
I'm very administrative. I can answer a phone. I'm fairly like easy to work with because I don't like to laugh. I'm a very serious person, but you will get the job done. Look, this is more than motivational. It really is. And here's the thing. In our context, right? So you're south of the border. And even though you're in the north, so to speak, I got family in Englewood, right? So I know about Jersey, right?
Yeah.
So the reality is, north of the border, we don't hear a lot of these types of stories because Canadian culture is not very capitalistic. So it's not an entrepreneurial place. This is a governmental space where big businesses make decisions and the rest of us kind of fall in line. But when I hear you come on here and you're like, you know what? The worst that could happen to me is that I fail. Right? It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't redefine who I am. It doesn't change the love that I get from my parents, my family. It doesn't change what Jamaica has meant to me. It doesn't change who God is to me. That to me is awesome. It really is.
Thank you.
I guarantee this is going to be his sermon on Sabbath. So you should be thanking her. Okay.
I need a link. To the sermon.
I'm not preaching.
We will send that to you.
This was my sermon. This is what I needed for this week, especially since this is Women's Month, right?
Yes, it is.
Right? So see, look at that. I'm all into the context of what's happening globally and stuff like that. No,
good for you, Dre.
This is a good way to start off the month by listening to Black excellence. And you know what? Here's what's also pouring through the screen. And I hope that this doesn't change, right? So I'm a little bit older, so I want to say this out loud. You are going places because you're already going places. But if I could say this to you, wherever you go, if you don't keep this servant humility type of heart, you might go further, but you're not going to have the peace that's on you. Because with all of the responsibility that you have, there's no stress. I mean, I'm sure that there are stress moments, but you're managing it because you understand that God is with you. I was thinking about Joseph, right? And I don't know what your life looks like. We didn't talk about all of that. We wanted to hear about the entrepreneur. But you are proof that when the Lord is with you, the sky is the limit.
Yes.
So keep him close.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you.
Close.
Hallelujah. This has been so phenomenal. And I'm sure all of our viewers are very upset that we're coming to an end. But Corey, if anyone wanted to, I guess, contact you via social media or be a part of your journey, whether it is, maybe through this, someone is like, hey, I'm good with tax law and all this stuff, and I can help you. If there's any way people could contact you, what is that? Could you give us that information so we can put it up right there on the screen?
Yeah, so my name is Corey Gordon, and it's CORI. GORDON. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And
look at him
just search
right
now.
Because she's gonna have to accept my friend request like right now, or else I'm just gonna hit delete on this.
You're right, because then you'll get pushed further down, and she'll be like, "Who is that person?"
I know. I'm so sorry. I've gotten so many requests here recently, and I'm sorry to everyone that I haven't gotten to yet, but I will. But Corey Gordon is my name. Oh, fun fact for y'all.
Yeah.
My dad's name is Corey Gordon.
Oh, nice.
He has 8 kids. I'm the eldest of 8. Wow. And all of our names begin with Corey.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a fun fact. That's amazing. Here I thought my parents were creative trying to make my full name, my initials spell my last name, but everybody's name has Corey in it?
Yeah. So my birth name is Corey Ann, hyphenated like the Jamaicans.
Yeah.
Yes. Always. Yeah. And so my sisters are like Corey Lee, Corey K, Corey Susanna. There's just like
that's amazing.
All these variations of my dad's name.
And you know what? That's actually a creative way for him to not like lose his name. You know how, because I'm married, so I dropped the Dodd. My dad's probably over there boo-hooing because I don't have his name anymore. But y'all don't have your dad.
Not boo-hooing at all.
But thank you so much, Corey, for coming on and talking with us today. Dre's mind is over there still running, so don't be surprised if you get a whole bunch of messages where he's like, I forgot to ask you.
I absolutely, because you know what, this conversation we could have talked so much about, like, just change.
Right?
I mean, really, that's from what you shared, so much about your life seems to be about the pivot and the transition and managing it at every. My head is about.
You're right.
You know what? This just means we're gonna have to bring back on Corey.
Corey's coming back.
Gather your questions.
Corey's coming back because you know
bringing Corey back.
The bad book of the pastor. You don't want the pastor to be.
Oh my goodness! I will do whatever y'all want me to do.
All right.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. This was such a wonderful conversation. You're a delight. I love talking with you.
You guys.
Thanks, Corey. Wow. Here at That's Just TMI, we are thought-provoking, motivational, inspirational. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Goodbye.